Clark here, as I usually am. Today we're going to talk about how do you like living in China right now? How do you like living in a communist society? How do you like living in a place where the government can overreach as much as they want and the piece of paper that our country was founded on means nothing? We have governors in Michigan, Kentucky. We have judges in Texas. We have all kinds of people exercising rights that they are not granted. So what we do is we stick our law enforcement officers, who are also citizens and are friends with us, they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, which is not fair to say, by the way, this is unconstitutional, but you need to follow orders here. So tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, in Houston, where I'm from, where my children live, I live in Corpus Christi, I believe it's going to be mandated that if you're in public, you can get up to $1,000 fine if you don't wear a mask in public. It doesn't get much more unconstitutional than that. That's why the slippery slope is so dangerous. Because if you use the same reasoning, they can come knock on your door and say, you have not done your 10 sit-ups today. You've not done your 30 push-ups today. How many calories did you eat? And that is all the sign of a communist way of life. And that's what we fought so hard to avoid. The Chinese are our enemy. And I know a little more than, I did 5 years ago, and more than what you will see as far as talking points is, we've got unfair trade deals with China, which most people think that, you just do the simple math and, they get a better deal on our stuff than we do on theirs, that type of thing. But it goes deeper into that. It's called Made in China 2025, and this is their deal. I know a little bit about this because I went down a rabbit hole as I was looking at ETFs in China. My wife is a little more familiar with the stock market, but I'm really good at seeing trends, and she asked me to kind of start looking at stuff. Well, I looked at that and then trading currencies since they went on the MSCI. I think they're the seventh one. They used to not be able to trade their currency, but now you can. They were added a couple of years ago, and but that's not. I'm not talking about really their market. I've found myself going down this rabbit hole of just looking at just basically what China is about. In Texas, if you grow up in Texas, you've got a pretty good feel for, like, you're paying attention to oil at all times, energy, natural gas. You're paying attention to these things, so you kind of know where the market's going to go for the most part. You can't predict a next day drop in oil. Nobody predicted what it's doing now, but you're always paying attention to it. And I knew nothing about China. And so Made in China 2025 kind of came up in part of the search list, is trying to figure out, how did they think? What do they, what do they buy? What are they motivated by? And what came up was a couple of things. There's I think it's about 25 bullet points, but the biggest one that most people don't know about is that it is legal for them to steal intellectual property. In other words, if you walk in there with a backpack and you want to sell this type of backpack, they are able to basically recreate it, do the same thing, and boot you out. There's no copyright laws, or there's no intellectual property protection or whatever. Now that sucks, but okay, fair enough. We won't do business with you. What's worse is that we don't get the same reciprocal rules when they do business here. So they get to steal our intellectual property, or anyone's. You can't bring a product over there. If you bring a phone over there and you want to sell it, they get to take it apart, look at the components, and do whatever they want with it, and make their notes, and they eventually produce their own. But when they come over here, we're not allowed to do the same thing. So when Trump says it's just not fair, once he starts saying words, he's a very bullet point oriented person, as if I have to tell you that. But once he starts talking about, intellectual property and in terms that, maybe some people aren't thinking through or just kind of tune out because they got too much going on to go, okay, whatever. It's a legal term. So he sticks to the main bullet points of it's not fair. It's not fair what they get to do to us, and then we, bend over for it. Now we get into why are we here? Why do we have these deals with China? Not just the tariffs, but the intellectual property stuff. It's because we've been sold to them by the people that we elected. And if you haven't been paying attention, which I wasn't for a while, and once I dug deeper and deeper into how this is working out and when these trends started, it kind of hit me in the gut. I was like, oh, fuck. Wow. You watch what they did with Sri Lanka? And I'm just making references, and what I hope you do is go look it up because, I don't know, it seems to maybe give you the opportunity to look for it and you'll find your own rabbit hole, which is how I got into, knowing a little more about China and what they're up to than, your average AOC bartender. So what's happened is we've elected goons and thugs and murderers and pedophiles, just overall the worst of the worst criminals into office, and we've let them run the show. And these guys don't want to let go of their position. It's not hard to understand why. And the middle class is their biggest foe. We're the ones that get out and vote. We're the ones that pay the most taxes. What did George Carlin say? The rich pay no taxes and do all the work. The middle class do all the work and pay all the taxes. And the poor are just there to scare the shit out of the middle class. Until we understand that these people want the middle class crushed, and China there's no real middle class. That's what they want, because the ruling class lives like kings and queens. I mean, if you watch even a few minutes of the Nancy Pelosi interview with the fat British guy, even Democrats are just looking at that ice cream video going, this is the last thing we need when we're in, food lines or we're in line at the food banks. And they're so out of touch that it's even, ringing true with liberals, which is hard to do. And we all know that Donald Trump has more money than anyone, but he ain't doing stuff like that. These guys do not care about anything other than retaining power. And why that's so hard to cram down someone's throat and just say, look, this is what is going on. I don't know why it's so hard. Because they're telling you this. AOC is saying straight up on camera that it's a shame, or you should be mad at Trump for saying he wants to liberate you by sending you back to work. Well, don't go back to work. That's what she's saying. You should boycott working. Fuck that. You know why they want to cram this Green New Deal down and say, basically, it's so bizarre until you realize what the endgame is. They're degrowthers. They want to limit the population. They want to limit the middle class and crush it. And then they can retain power, because once you're poor, you have no power. Now, one thing that we have not given up, which it's still under siege, is our Second Amendment right, which makes us a tough hurdle to cover. As long as we have our Second Amendment rights, we can pretty much hold some ground, at least for a while, but we're going to quit electing these fucking idiots into office. Remember, they're telling you what they're going to do. They're telling you their motives. When they're talking about the top 1%, that doesn't affect anyone. They really want to crush the middle class, okay? The people that say the 1% is getting all your money, they are the 1%. Get that through your skull. Nancy Pelosi is worth almost $200 million as a public servant. Okay? Who knows what, I don't know what Joe Biden is worth, but these guys are getting rich off of you breaking your back. Yet they're the party of the working class. They're the workers' party. They're out there for the little man. But it's the Republicans that want to kill Granny and all this stuff. Till we learn to let our bullshit meters work and fine-tune it and go, look, this doesn't look right, then we're just going to keep getting more of the same. And right now, every time I go to the store, there's a stripe that I stand on. There's people wearing these ridiculous bandanas and shit over there. I mean, okay, so when you start wearing a mask, well, okay, what mask actually works? It should be 3M at the very minimum. And those are quite expensive. And you don't see very many of them. That's like a respirator mask. And then, so then do they say, do you have to start wearing goggles and all these things? That's the slippery slope of letting the government overreach. And we'll get what we ask for. And I don't know the answer as far as how to, I guess, defy what is unconstitutional without ruining your life. I don't know the answer. If y'all do, please let me know. I don't suggest going out and committing any types of violence. But at some point, if our government officials are breaking the law and no one's doing anything about it, I don't see any other way other than it sparking some sort of civil war that none of us want. Life is pretty damn good. There's a lot of parties that get crashed by the assholes when everyone's having a good time, and that's what's happening right now. Look up Made in China 2025 and just follow that rabbit hole down and see where you find yourself. They do not have the same values as us. It is very, very foreign. And there's no pun there. It is bizarrely foreign the more you look at it. They do not think like us. But our leaders think like them quite a bit.
I only stay when I'm gone. I only ride to get thrown. I only tread not to sing. And I can't move when I'm bound by the weight of this town. But I got these wheels in the ground. I'm not saying them sound. I only smoke when I drink. I only smoke when I drink. I only drink when it hurts. It only hurts every day. Every day it gets worse. Worse is being alone. At least alone I can think. Thinking's best to smoke. I only smoke when I drink. I can't run when I'm tired. I can't sleep when I'm wired. I can't work, I got fired. And I can't dream while I think. And I can't move when I'm bound by the weight of this town. And I got these wheels in the ground. I'm not saying them sound. I only smoke when I drink. I only smoke when I drink.